name is Rainy, and today I'm going to be doing my quarterly book wrap-up. Every 3 months, I'm just going to go through everything that I've read, because I feel like at that point, I'll have accumulated enough books to actually talk about. I try to read as much as I can, but I'm not in school, so I don't have any required reading or anything, so I just try to squeeze in as many books as I can. So I figure after 3 months, I'll have a good amount to show. So I'll be telling you the books I read and then giving you my ratings. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. If I don't like your favorite book, or if I love a book you hate, it's just all opinions, but I just want to let you know how I feel about them. So let's get started. The first book that I read, I actually started in 2020, but then I didn't have time to finish it until the beginning of 2021, so I finished this in January, and it's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I don't have the dust cover on it, but this is a Book of the Month edition, and this book was really good. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. You can follow me on Goodreads here. I gave this a 5 out of 5. It's really different from anything I've read before. It kind of got me into a different kind of genre, because I usually read a lot of young adult, romance basically, some dystopian stuff, but this is almost like a historical fiction, I want to say. This book centers around a girl named Addie LaRue, and she is from France. She hates her life, basically. She doesn't want to get married to this guy. She wants a grander life, but she doesn't really have the opportunity for that. So she prays to a god and wishes for a way out of her life. He grants that wish, and she becomes invisible, kind of. Every time she meets someone, as soon as they look away from her, they can no longer remember her. So if she leaves the room and comes back, they no longer know her. She can't leave her mark on the world, essentially, but she can live forever. So it's kind of her journey and her struggle, and okay, awesome, I can live forever and I can go on all these grand adventures, but she struggles to find places to sleep and find food, because she can't make a mark. So it was really, really interesting. I know that some people had issues with the pacing, or being too long, or there being unnecessary information in there, but I really liked everything that was in it. I feel like everything was necessary to the story, and it was just so good and so well written. And the end, even if you think you know what's gonna happen, the end will catch you by surprise, and it did make me cry, but pretty much everything does. So 5 out of 5. By the way, this is by V.E. Schwab. Hello, somehow I forgot to mention one of the most important plot points of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, in which she meets someone who remembers her. So he sees her, and the next time he sees her, he remembers her. So there is a romance as well. Completely forgot to mention that. Next, I read The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I gave this a 3 out of 5. Maybe, I think I put 3.5. This was a good book, but I mean, it's not one of my new favorites by any means. It's told in 2 different perspectives from the 2 characters, and Leon's character, his parts are written in a very unique writing style. It takes a while to pick up on that, or it did for me at least, and to kind of get used to it. This book takes place in England, and our main character, Tiffy, needs somewhere to stay after breaking up with her boyfriend, and she decides to do a flat share, where she'll be in the apartment by night, and our other main character, Leon, will be keeping it by day because he works the night shift. They start talking to each other through notes, and romance ensues. It was good. It was just not one of my favorite books, but it was just a cute, fun, light story, and I enjoyed it, so. Next, I read In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I want to read more of her books. This was such a fantastic book. I don't have the physical copy because I'm letting someone borrow it to share its magic. This was a relatively short book, not crazy short, but I read it in one sitting because it was that good and it just pulls you in. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5. I think it was a 4.5 out of 5. In this book, our main character, Danny, is a lawyer, and she lives in New York City with her long-term boyfriend. Suddenly, one night, she goes to bed and she has a dream, but she knows that she's been kind of transported 5 years in the future. Everything's too real, it's too lifelike. She knows this is not a dream. She knows she's really here in this apartment with this man who is not her current boyfriend, and she lives in this complete other part of New York City, and all her stuff is in this apartment, and she's living with this guy, and she's so confused. She then goes back to normal life and then she meets this guy, and a whole bunch of stuff ensues from there. But the only thing I would say is to not go into this book with expectations, because I kind of had a certain expectation, and maybe that's why it's a 4.5 instead of a 5 for me, because I went in expecting a certain something, and this book is just, it's so different, and it's super well executed, but it wasn't what I originally thought it was going to be, which isn't a bad thing. It really surprised me. It was very unexpected, and I really liked it. It has a lot of real good characters, and it really shows their growth throughout the book. Very well written. I love the way that Rebecca Searle writes. I have another one of her books that I'm going to be reading soon, so very excited. Next, I read Covet. It is the 3rd installment of the Crave series. I read this on my Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy. I gave this book a 4 out of 5, simply because I haven't read the whole series. The 4th book hasn't come out yet, and so I'm not sure which book is going to be my favorite until I read them all, but once I read them all, I will be rating one of them a 5 out of 5. I just don't know which one yet. I don't want to talk too much about this because it is the 3rd in a series, so I don't want to spoil anything. But the original Crave book, the premise is pretty much this human girl goes to a boarding school with a bunch of mythical creatures, vampires, werewolves, dragons, witches, and she finds out she has this soulmate. Normally, I'm not really into fantasy books like that, but it was really good. Because I read it on my Kindle, I didn't originally realize how many pages these books are, but they're a big hefty book. Like, it's a big, like, Twilight-sized book. I think the first one is 700 or 800 pages, but it's so captivating that I didn't even realize, and same goes for the 2nd and the 3rd. And these books are by Tracy Wolff. The next book I read is The Quotient by Helen Hong. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I don't have it because it was a library book. This book was so good. It was such a cute romance. To give you a little synopsis, our main character Stella has a form of autism called Asperger's. Stella is extremely intelligent, but she's not really where she wants to be in terms of romantic life. She has a super good job. She really loves what she does, but she wants to further her experience in romance. So she hires an escort. This book is super steamy, so if that's not your thing, you probably won't like it. But I normally don't like steaminess, but the steaminess was very motivated and very sweet, and it felt like very important to the plot. And I think this did a good job of bringing you into the mind of someone with Asperger's and how they deal with like day-to-day things, and it was really good. I also basically read this in one day, and the 2 main characters are Asian, so it shows some cultural diversity, and that was fun to read about. So next, moving on, I finished Why We Broke Up. I started reading this, I'm not gonna lie to you, I started reading this probably 2 years ago, so I had to skim back. I pretty much remembered what happened, but I had to skim back over the first few chapters. But I finally finished it, and it was so worth it, and it was so good. This is by Daniel Handler, and the illustrations are by Mara Collin. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 because it is so quirky and different, but also very realistic at the same time. It's like whimsical, but really based in reality. So if you couldn't tell by the title, this is about a girl named Min who is explaining to her ex-boyfriend Ed why they broke up, and she has a box of items that have to do with things throughout the relationship, and she's giving them back all the stuff and explaining the items. It's just so interesting, and you get like the full story of the relationship and then also the heartbreak, which you don't get in a lot of stories. And even though I love a happy ending, this kind of was a happy ending. It was very satisfying to read. The illustrations are so cute. They just have such like, I don't know, like a nostalgic quality for me. While you can like imagine these things she's talking about, this gives you like a clear image, and it really helps, and I really like it. Oh, look how pretty. So yeah, this was really good, really different. I love that it had pictures, super fun. The last book that I read, which is a library book, is Friends and Strangers by J. Courtney Sullivan. This is also very different from things I normally read. I guess you would call it contemporary fiction. It's a really great just like slice of life book. There are obviously major conflicts and things that go on throughout the book, but it really is just the story of a year in a life of these people. So it's told in 2 different perspectives. Our first perspective is from Elizabeth. She's a new mom, and she's really struggling just with life. She's estranged from her family. She's having financial struggles. Her and her husband have to move from their home in Brooklyn to his hometown. And then she meets Sam, her babysitter for her son. Sam is our other point of view. She is a student at the local women's college. She's going through her own struggles in life, from her long-distance relationship with her older boyfriend in London, to her own financial struggles, and then she finds refuge in Elizabeth's father-in-law. It's really interesting how everybody connects. In the differing point of views, you can see what Elizabeth thinks about something, and then how Sam sees it and how different it is, and how you don't really know what people are going through or what they're thinking. This was really good. It was very long. If you want something very fast-paced, this probably isn't the one for you. It is slow, but I think it was done well, and it's deliberately slow. I rated this a 4 out of 5. Okay, so that is all the books that I read so far this year. I already have a new Rebecca Searle that I'm going to be reading, 2 more books from the library. If you have any recommendations, anything you think I need to read, whether it's old, new release, any kind of genre, whatever. Thank you for joining me and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!